Perfect. Good afternoon or good evening, football fans. Big Al here on this Monday, December 18th, 2023, and welcome to the Week 15 edition of The Week That Was, which will be done in 3 parts this week. Today, we'll be looking at Thursday night football with the Chargers and the Raiders and the trio of games that were played on Saturday. That's going to be part 1 in this video. And then parts 2 and 3 will both come out tomorrow. Part 2 will be looking at the 7 early games from Sunday afternoon. And part 3, which is also dropping tomorrow, we'll be looking at the late afternoon games from Sunday, as well as Sunday night football with the Ravens and Jaguars, and Monday night football with the Eagles and the Seahawks. Plus, my Week 16 power rankings and the updated playoff races in the National Football League after 15 weeks of play. All right, with that said, let's jump into part 1 of this Week 15 edition of The Week That Was, starting off with Thursday night football as the Las Vegas Raiders, who 4 days earlier were shut out at home by the Minnesota Vikings, they turned the tables around in a big way as they stomped the Los Angeles Chargers 63-21. The 63 points are the most points scored by any team in a Thursday night game ever. We'll start with individual numbers for the Raiders. Aiden O'Connell was 20 of 34 for 248 yards with 4 touchdowns and no interceptions and a QB rating of 120.7. Meanwhile, Jacoby Myers, one of their receivers, was 2 for 2 for 12 yards and a touchdown and a 131.3 quarterback rating. All right, so the leading rusher for Las Vegas is Zamir White. 17 rushes, 69 yards, and a touchdown on 4.1 yards per run. Amir Abdullah, 6 for 32 yards, averaged 5.3 per run. Bolden, 2 for 25 and a touchdown at 12.5 a run. Tucker, 1 rush for -2. Over to the receivers, Devontae Adams, 8 catches, 101 yards, 1 on 12 targets at 12.6 yards per catch. Tucker, 3 catches, 59 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 4 targets at 19.7 per catch. Nair, 4 catches, 39 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets, 9.8 yards per grab. The aforementioned Jacoby Myers, 2 catches, 32 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets at 16 per grab. Zamir White, 3 for 16 on 4 targets at 5.3 per reception. Amir Abdullah, 2 for 13 yards on 2 targets at 6.5 yards per catch. Austin Hooper was targeted once, while Hunter Renfrow had 2 targets in the game. Neither recorded a catch. Daniel Carlson, no field goals attempted. How about 9 for 9 on extra points? Cole with 6 punts, averaging 51.7 yards per punt. Longest was 68 with 2 touchbacks. All right. Diablo led the Raiders defense with 7 tackles. Jones had 4 tackles, 1 pass defense, 1 interception, and a touchdown. Polamalu had 3 tackles, as did Hall. Kuntz, 3 tackles, 2 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Robertson, 2 tackles and a pass defense. Crosby with 2 tackles. Bennett, 2 tackles. Robinson, Masterson, and Bolton all with 2 tackles for the Raiders. For the Chargers, Easton Stick starting for the injured Justin Herbert, 20 of 32, 257 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 113.7 QB rating. Leading rusher for the Chargers was Spiller, 16 for 50 yards on 3.1 yards per run. Kelly, 5 for 22 yards, 4.4 per run. Stick, 2 for 11 yards, 5.5 yards per run. Austin Eckler held in check, 5 rushes for 9 yards at only 1.8 per run. 3 yards per catch. Gerald Everett, 5 for 41 on 8 targets, 8.2 a catch. Austin Eckler, 4 for 29 on 6 targets at 7.3. Johnston, 2 for 23 and a touchdown on 3 targets, 11.5 yards a catch. Guyton, 2 for 19 on 2 targets, 9.5 per catch. Smart, 3 catches, 15 yards on 3 targets, 5 per catch. Erickson, 1 reception, 13 yards, and a touchdown on 2 targets. Kelly, 1 catch, 6 yards on 1 target. Davis, 1 catch, -2 yards on 2 targets. Cameron Dicker, no field goals attempted, 3 for 3 on extra points. Scott, with 5 punts, averaging 49.2 yards, average or longest is 60, with 2 punts inside the 20-yard line. All right, Kendricks paced the LA defense. He had 9 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 pass defense. Johnson, 5 tackles. Davis, 5 tackles and 2 passes defense. James, 3 tackles and 1 pass defense. Joseph Day, 2 tackles. Khalil Mack, 2 tackles, 2 passes defense. Murray, 2 tackles defense. And Gilman with 2 tackles for the LA Chargers. All right. Total yards, 378 for the Raiders, 326 for the Chargers. Passing yards, 254 for Vegas, 234 for the Chargers. Rushing yards also favored the Raiders, 124-92. Time of possession, close to in this one, 30 minutes and 9 seconds for the Chargers versus 29:51 for the Raiders. First downs, edge Vegas, 20-18. Third downs, Chargers 6-12, Raiders 9 for 16. Fourth down, 0 for 1 for the Chargers, no 4th downs for the Raiders. Los Angeles with 6 tackles, or 6 penalties rather, for 65 yards. They were sacked 3 times, losing 23. 4 fumbles lost, 1 interception, and 5 punts. And the Raiders, 4 penalties for 30 yards. There were no fumbles lost or interceptions thrown, and they had 6 punts in the game. Closing line was Vegas -3, and the over/under is 36.5. I gotta look for my picks real quick. Here they go. Nope. Here they are. Anyway, I took the Raiders straight up and against the spread, although I was expecting a more lower scoring game. But that's cool. 63 points, and they cover the spread. I'll take that. Oh, by the way, not only are the 63 points the most scored by a team in the history of Thursday Night Football, going back to 2006, it is also the most points scored by a team that was shut out the previous week in NFL history. Because remember, the Raiders lost 3-0 to the Vikings in Week 14. And then 4 nights later, they explode for 63 points. So shout out to the Las Vegas Raiders for the big turnaround there. Okay, let's move to the Saturday tripleheader. The first game we'll look at Excuse me, felt a sneeze coming. But anyway, let's jump over to the Saturday triple header, and we'll start with game number one, which was probably the best of the three on Saturday, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals in overtime defeating the Minnesota Vikings 27-24. All right, so we are going to take a look at individual numbers for the Bengals first. Beginning with Jake Browning, 29 of 42 for 324 yards with 2 touchdowns and 1 interception and a 97.7 passer rating. Joe Mixon led the Bengals ground attack, 10 rushes, 47 yards, and a touchdown on 4.7 per run. Brown, 7 for 23 at 3.3 per run. Williams, 1 rush for 10 yards. Browning, 4 rushes for no yards. Trying to scroll down here. I went too far. Himself a day. 4 catches, 61 yards, 2 TDs on 8 targets, 15.3 per catch. Tyler Boyd, 2 for 53 yards on 5 targets at 20.5 per catch. Hudson, 5 for 49 on 5 targets, 9.8 per catch. Brown, 3 for 28 on 3 targets, 9.3 per catch. Wilcox, 2 for 20 yards on 2 targets and 10 per catch. For 18 on 3 targets, 9 yards per catch. Mixon, 3 for 14 on 3 targets, 4.7 a catch. Jones, just 10 yards on 3 targets at 5 per catch. Iosivas, 1 catch, 5 yards on 2 targets. And Williams, 1 catch, 2 yards on 1 target. Drew Sample targeted once in this game, no catches for him. Evan McPherson, 2 for 2 on field goals, longest was 34, 3 for 3 on extra points. Roberts, 4 punts, averaging 48 per punt, longest is 56, with 2 inside the 20. All right. Vince with 5 tackles and half a sack. Wilson and Turner each have 4 tackles. Hill have 4 tackles and 1 pass defense. There's Battle, Sample, Awuzie, each with 3 tackles. Hilton, 3 tackles, 2 passes defense, and an interception. Hubbard, 3 tackles. Murphy, 2 tackles and a sack. And Hill on this team. He had 1 tackle, 1 pass defense, and 1 for the Cincinnati Bengals. Moving over to the Vikings, Nick Mullins, 26 to 33, 303 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 INTs, 99.9 QB rating. Justin Jefferson threw a pass in this game, no completions, 39.6 QB rating. Chandler was the leading rusher for Minnesota, and he had himself a great day. 23 rushes, 132, and a touchdown at 5.7 per run. Nick Mullins, 6 for 10 yards, 1.7 per run. And Nwangwu, I think that's how you pronounce his name, 1 rush for 1 yard. Over to the Minnesota receivers. Addison, 6 catches, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns on 6 targets at 18 yards per grab. Justin Jefferson, 7 for 84 on 10 targets, 12 yards per catch. TJ Hawkinson, 6 for 63 yards on 7 targets at 10.5 per catch. Chandler, 3 for 20 on 4 targets at 8.3 per catch. Oliver, 2 for 14 on 2 targets, 7 yards per catch. Munt, 1 catch, 3 yards on target, and KJ Osborne, 1 catch for 3 yards on 2 targets. Greg Joseph, 1 for 1 on field goals, only attempt from 3 for 3 on extra points. And Ray punts, 50.7 yards per punt, 58 was his. All right. Bynum led the Vikings defense tackles. Pace had 7 tackles. Byron Murphy 5 tackles and a forced fumble. Harrison Smith 5 tackles and a pass defense. Metellus 5 tackles and a sack. DJ Wanham 4 tackles and a sack, plus 2 passes defense. Danielle Hunter 3 tackles, 2 sacks. Evans 3 tackles, 2 passes defense, and an interception for total yards for Cincinnati 378. Passing yards for 298 to 281 for the Bengals. Run was 143 to 80 for the Vikings. Time of possession, very close in this game. 33 minutes, 41 seconds for the Vikings and 33 minutes, 8 seconds for the Bengals. First downs, 24-22 for Cincinnati. Third downs, 5 of Vikings, 6 of 13 for the Bengals. Fourth down plays, Vikings 0 for 1, Bengals 1 for 1. Minnesota finished with 4 penalties for 22 yards. They were sacked 3 times for 22 yards. No fumbles lost, 2 interceptions. Cincinnati, 3 penalties, 26 yards. They were sacked 5 times, losing 26. No fumbles lost, 1 interception, and 4 punts. Okay, closing line in this game was Cincinnati -3. Over-under was 41.5. Took the Bengals to win and to cover. I won the straight-up pick, but I pushed the ATS pick. So I'm still unbeaten against the spread at this juncture. All right. The second game on Saturday sees the Indianapolis Colts hammer the Pittsburgh Steelers 30-13 in a game in which both teams are battling for a wild card spot in the AFC playoffs. Yeah, the Colts were very impressive in this game. We'll start with their individual numbers first. Beginning with Gardner Minshew, 18 of 28, 215 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a QB rating of 123.4. Sermon led the Indy rush attack, 17 rushes, 88 yards, 5.2 yards per run. Goodson, 11 for 69 on 6.3 per run. Zach Moss, 4 for 13 on 3.3. Of course, he would leave this game with an injury. Minshew ran twice for no yards. On to the Indianapolis receivers. Michael Pittman, 4 catches, 78 yards on 5 targets, 19.5 yards per catch. Montgomery, 2 for 48 and a TD on 4 targets, 24 yards per catch. Mo Alley Cox, 2 for 21 yards and a touchdown on 3 targets, 10.5 yards per catch. Zach Moss, 3 catches, 20 yards and a touchdown on 3 targets, 6.7 per grab. Josh Downs, 19 on 3 targets, 6.3 yards per grab. Pierce, 1 catch, 13 yards on 5 targets. Goodson, 2 for 10 yards on 2 targets at 5 per catch. Granson, 1 for 6 yards and a target. Ogletree had 1 target in the game, but no catches. Okay. Matt Gay, 3 for 5 on field goals, long as 2, and 3 for 3 on extra points. And Sanchez with just 1 punt, which went for 57 yards. It landed in the 20-yard line, and he also had a blocked punt in this game. Okay, Speed, the leader of this Indianapolis defense on Saturday. He had 9 tackles and 1 forced fumble. DeForest Buckner, 3 tackles and half a sack. Jones, 3 tackles. Franklin, 2 tackles and 1 pass. Odeyingbo, 2 tackles and 1.5 sacks. Kwity Paye, 2 tackles. Epucom, 2 tackles, 1.5 sacks. Lewis with 2 tackles. Thomas had 2 tackles as well. Blackman with 2 tackles, 1 pass defense, and an interception. And Grover Stewart, 1 tackle and half a sack for the Indianapolis Colts. Over to the Steelers now. Mitch Trubisky, 16 of 20, 69, a touchdown and 2 INTs, 68.9 QB rating. Sorry about that. If you can hear it, there's a jet flying over my house. Mason Rudolph for 3 yards and a 70.1 QB rating. Okay, Warren, 10 rushes, 40 yards at 4 yards per pop. Najee Harris limited to 12 carries, 33 yards at 2.8. Trubisky, 2 rushes, 1 yard, and a rushing TD, half a yard per run. What's his average? Steelers receivers, not much to talk about here. Johnson, 4 catches, 62 yards, and a touchdown on 6 targets. George Pickens, 3 for 47 yards on 7 targets at 15.7 per catch. Johnson averaged 15.5. Wynn, 5 for 28 on 6 targets at 5 points per catch. I think that's Jake Warren, I'm pretty sure. Jalen Warren. Okay, I'll remember that next week. Jalen Warren. Robin, 3 for 19 yards on 3 targets, 6.3 yards per run, or 6.3 yards per catch. We're talking receivers here. Sorry about that. And Pat Freiermuth, 3 for 16 yards on 4 targets, 5.3 yards per catch. Chris Boswell, no attempted, 1 for 2 on extra points. Harvin, 4 at 40 yards per punt, longest is 55, with 1 inside the 20-yard line. Okay, the Steelers defense was led by Roberts. He had 8 tackles. Thompson had 6 tackles. And Highsmith each had 4 tackles. Casey Hayward, 3 tackles. Wallace, 3 tackles. Robinson, 3 tackles. Ogunjobi, 2 tackles and 1 sack. TJ Watt, 2 tackles and 2 sacks. Not Joey Porter. We'll talk about him after Patrick Peterson. He had 2 tackles. Joey Porter had 2 tackles and a pass defense for the Steelers. All right, total yards, 372 for the Colts, only 216 for the Steelers. Passing yards were 202 to 142. Rushing is 170 to 74, both favoring Indianapolis. Time of possession, Colts 33 minutes, 20 seconds. Steelers 20 minutes and 40 seconds. All right, 19 first downs in Indy, 13 for Pittsburgh. Third downs. The Steelers finished 4 of 12. The Colts were 6 of 15. Fourth downs. Pittsburgh 2 out of 3. Indy 1 for 2. The Steelers had 8 penalties for 101 yards. They were sacked 4 times, losing 30. 1 fumble loss, 2 interceptions thrown, and 4 punts. The Colts finished with 2 penalties for 10 yards. They were sacked 3 times, losing 13. No lost fumbles or interceptions, and 2 punts. Line was Indianapolis -1. Over under was 41.5. I did take the Steelers both straight up, and with the points lost both picks. So that's my first L of week 5. Dropping me the 2-1 straight up, and 1-1 with the point spread. And the final game we'll look at is the Detroit Lions, whose defense showed up on Saturday night as they throttled Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos 42-17. One of their best defensive outings so far in 2023. Okay, individual numbers for the Lions. We'll start with Jared Goff. 24-34, 278. How about 5 touchdown passes to no interceptions? Quarterback rating real good at 134.6. The ground game was working too. Jahmyr Gibbs, 11 rushes, 100 yards, touchdown, averaged 9.1 yards per run. And Montgomery, 17 for 85 yards at 5 yards per run. Very impressive rushing numbers for both. Lions receivers led by Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7 catches, 112 yards, and a touchdown on 9 targets and 16 yards per game. Sam Laporta had himself a night, 5 catches, 56 yards, and 3 scores on 6 targets at 11.2 yards per catch. Jameson Williams, 4 catches, 47 yards on 7 targets per catch. Reynolds, 2 for 41 on hits, 20.5 per catch. Khalif Raymond, 1 catch, 12 yards on 1 target. Jahmyr Gibbs, 2 catches, 8 yards, and a touchdown on 2 targets, 4 yards a catch. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 1 catch, 5 yards on 1 target. And David Montgomery, 2 catches, -3 yards on 3 targets. Okay. Badgley, no field goals attempted, 6 for 6 on extra points. Fox, 435.3 as his average. Longest is 48 with a touchback and 1 punt inside the 20-yard line. Anzalone paced the Detroit defense with 7 tackles and 1 pass defense. Melafanu, 6 tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced passes defense. Busy night for him. Aiden Hutchinson, 3 tackles and a pass defense. Joseph and Barnes each with 3 tackles. Pascal, 2 tackles and a sack. Sutton, 2 tackles and a pass defense. Same numbers for Dorsey. And Branch, 1 tackle and a pass defense for the Lions. For the Denver Broncos, Russell Wilson, 18 of 32, 223 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 88.4 QB rating. Samaje Perine led the Denver rushing attack, 6 rushes, 37 yards, 6.2 yards a run. Williams, 12 for 27, 2.3 per run. Marvin Mims, 1 rush, 11 yards. Russell Wilson, 7 rushes, 6 yards, and a rushing touchdown at under a yard per run, 0.9 to be exact. McLaughlin, 2 for 2 yards. Okay, over to the Broncos receivers. Jerry Jeudy, 3 catches, 74 yards on 7 targets, 24.7 yards per catch. Sutton, 5 catches, 71 yards on 6 targets, 14.2 yards per catch. Troutman, 1 grab, 24 yards on 3 targets. Kroll, 1 catch, 18 yards on 3 targets. McLaughlin, 2 for 16 on 3 targets at 8 per catch. Humphrey, 3 for 16 and a touchdown on 4 targets, 5.3 per catch. Ryan, 1 catch for 11. Johnson had 1 target. Mills, 2 targets, neither recorded a catch. Williams, 2 catches for -7 on 2 targets. Okay, Will Lutz, 1 for 1 on field goals, only attempt from 23 for 2 on extra points. All right, Dixon, 5 punts, 51.8 yards per punt. Longest is 56. 1 touchback, 2 punts inside the 20. Okay. Jewell and Moreau led the Broncos defense with 7 tackles apiece. Moreau also had a pass defense. Cooper, 5 tackles and a sack. Simmons, 4 tackles and a pass defense. Singleton and Harris with 3 tackles each. Locke, 3 tackles and a pass defense. Jones, 3 tackles and a sack. Surtain and McMillan with 2 tackles apiece. Goals. All right, total yards 448 for the Lions, 287 for the Broncos. Passing and rushing yards both favored Detroit. Passing was 63 to 204. Rushing was 185 to 83. Again, both to the Lions. Time is 18 seconds for Detroit, 28 minutes, 42 seconds for Denver. The Lions had 29 first downs versus 20 for the Broncos. Third down conversions, 5 of 13 for the Broncos, 5 of 10 for the Lions. Fourth downs, Denver 2 for 2, Detroit 1 for 1. All right, the Broncos with 4 penalties for 40 yards. Here they were sacked twice for 19. 1 fumble loss, no interceptions, 5 punts. Lions 2 penalties for 4 yards, sacked twice, losing 15. No fumbles lost, no interceptions thrown, 4 punts. Closing line was Detroit minus 5.5. Over under was 49. I took the Lions to win and to in my 2-1-1 against the spread. Great way to start the week. All right, that is it for part 1 of this week 15 edition of the week that was. We will be back tomorrow with parts 2 and 3. Part 2, which is the next video, we'll be looking at the 7 early games from Sunday. And then in part 3, it's the 3 late games, Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football, plus my Week 16 power rankings and the updated playoff races going into Week 16. So make sure you join me tomorrow for both of those. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and enjoy the pigskin. Peace out.